We often say in this space that the birth families are not the enemy, and today you're going to hear why from our special guest, Danica Montana. She's a birth mom, and she's going to share her story with us. So thrilled to have you with us today, Danica. We're going to get right into it. I want to know, what was it like for you as a child? And I know that part of your story is entering foster care. So just take us kind of into the day-to-day of what it was like for you growing up.
So my childhood was really dark. It's hard for me to explain my childhood in any way but thinking of every vivid bad memory on a daily basis almost. It's really hard for me to think of good times, and the good times were kind of based on not reality. I kind of made things up, and I made up stories at school so that people wouldn't find out about what was going on at home. Like for a long time, I said my mom was a doctor, my dad was a lawyer, and that's why they were never at functions or basketball games. And also, in the town I was in, there wasn't a lot of native kids, so I also didn't want to be looked at as pitiful or so I made sure to the best of my ability that I was dressed nice and taken care of, knew how to do my hair, taught myself how to braid my hair, brush my teeth, and match my clothes. But my childhood was really lonely. It was scary. And that was before foster care.
Yeah, it was lonely. It was scary. And I hear you that you had to make up a pretend world, a false world to feel okay in the situation. Is it fair to say, you use the word scary, that you suffered abuse and neglect? Is that a true
Yes.
statement?
Between Before I was one for sure, I experienced the neglect at home from drugs and alcohol, so being put into foster care. But the first time I experienced like sexual and physical abuse was not at home, it was in the foster care. And I don't remember exactly how many foster care homes I was in, but I always remember three because I remember exactly specific events that happened in each of those with the physical and sexual abuse.
I'm sorry. Those are really hard things to have to talk about, and I am thankful that you're willing to share that with us and with our listeners. Do you remember what age you were the first time you went into foster care? Do you know that?
It had to be like between 2 and 3 years old. I don't have pictures from those ones, but I have actual pictures when I was 4 at one of the foster cares where me and my older brother are sitting on a bench and it says 92, 93. So I would have been around 4 in those pictures, but that wasn't the first one.
Wow. So you were in and out of foster care all throughout your childhood. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. From birth till 10 years old, while I was with my mom, she was in treatment a lot. She was um, addicted to alcohol, substances. I don't know that my mom ever did anything outside alcohol at that time. And then she left my dad when I was an infant, but the guy that she got with, who was my stepdad, ever since I could remember. So she must have got with him pretty soon. But family wise, that's the first person at home who sexually abused me. And that was her husband, and that was my father figure. And I loved him. Like, I thought he was everything to me. He spoiled me and he treated me good. And obviously, later, people would call that grooming and other things that I couldn't have known then. But the first time he um, inappropriately touched me and it went further than that, I was the timeline of age is really hard for me, but it was between 4, 5, 6, where it went farther than just touching. And he claimed he was blacked out, and he thought he was he thought that I was my mom. And there's no way you thought a child that small body parts were similar to a grown woman, you know?
Yes, I do know, and just horrific, horrific, vile, unconscionable things. And you were just a young child, just trusting, and he took advantage of that and manipulated, and all of those awful, awful things that happened to you. I just have to again say I'm so sorry that those things happened to you. I can't ever just not say that when someone shares something so awful and horrific. I want to fast forward a little bit in your story and ask, how did those early childhood experiences that you had both in your home and in foster care, some of the not as great placements as you've shared, how did they shape your outlook on parenting as you reached early adulthood yourself?
So the thing about those situations is I tell people like, I was too young to think about having kids when I started thinking about having kids, because I made up my mind that once I had a child, I would have someone to unconditionally love me, and that's all I wanted. So, I mean, I had names picked out when I was a little girl. Like, I dreamed of having a daughter, and how I would have a daughter who didn't have to go through what I did. But it also made me, um, I always thought that I would be a better parent. I always thought that there's no way you could tell me the way my life turned out would repeat itself, which is hard for me to say. Like, I said, I would never drink, I would never do drugs, I would never be with abusive men, I would never pick men over my children. And um, the cycle kind of repeated itself.
Yeah, and I appreciate your vulnerability and being honest and sharing that with us. I know that's hard for you to say, and thinking you had this inner template of what parenting looked like. And I'm guessing you had no other good role models in any of your early childhood experiences to give you any other roadmap for parenting. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, very fair. The places where I was sent outside of foster care to other family that I thought were safe ended up having husbands or boyfriends who did the same thing. So everywhere that I went, that I thought the woman in the picture was the safe person, I almost resent those people more, because although the man is who violated me, when I told my mom and I told my aunt about their partners who did these things to me, my mom told me I was a liar. And my aunt, I didn't tell her till way later, but she told me, Danica, you need to let that go.
Yeah, the one who stands by in the face of evil that is complicit with it. Certainly understandable that that is something that makes you very angry
Yeah.
as well, and I'm sure all of our listeners can understand that. Can we fast forward a little bit in your story? So you've shared with me in our time off the air, um, that your own children did end up in foster care. And can you tell me a little bit about that and just the different things that were going through your mind at that time?
All three of my children at different times have gotten taken from me. My son did not I got to take my son home, and my first son was born sober, or I was clean for enough of it to be honest, not all of it, but enough of it to be okay for us to leave the hospital, and to also in a different state than Montana, where CPS isn't such um, a thing, I guess. I don't know how to really say that, but um, I felt the first thing would probably be anger. I wanted to blame everyone. I didn't know how to take accountability. I was a victim. It was poor me. And this is from having a lot of therapy and growth to be able to even say, I was the problem. My kids weren't my first priority. Before diaper changes and getting fed in the morning, I had to make sure I had a drink so I wasn't shaky and I could cope and I could get through the day. And I wasn't the best option for my kids because I was getting beat up every day. I was in an extremely abusive relationship, and when CPS intervened, after the anger kind of passed, I was hurt. I was in a world of pain. I was scared. I was scared there was nothing I could do to get them back. I was afraid that the expectations they had for me to even get visits was, I didn't fight any of it. I absolutely thought it was necessary. There was nothing I wasn't going to do. So I fought for them for as long as I could, and then there was a lot of programs that ended, and soon as I was back on my own with their dad, it was I relapsed and lost everything and lost them again. So I mean, I guess fear, anger, failure. I definitely went to the mom shame, mom guilt. I'm just like my mom. How can I'm not better than her. I didn't do better. I didn't. Really hard on myself. And I feel really guilty saying the one thing that I wasn't thinking of when they got taken was them and how they felt that first night. And it took me a lot of years to even to think about that. Like, oh, for me, CPS is the enemy, and not one time did I think how scared they were that night to not be with their mom.
Yeah, it might have been overwhelming at that point
Yeah.
to even consider that.
Yeah. And also gave myself a reason to continue to drink and numb the pain.
Yeah, because now there was new pain to numb.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability there. You can hear evidence of recovery even in your way that you can reflect back upon it and not have that shame storm come over you as you speak about it. That is something I admire in you, and that's commendable. You've obviously come a long way in your recovery. That brings me to a question I have is how did you come to be involved with the special family recovery court there, which is why we're ending up getting to talk today. That's kind of how we got connected. Tell me a little bit more about that and kind of your experience there.
My youngest baby was born in 2022, and he was positive. My cord was positive for alcohol, so CPS came to the hospital and they took him, and that was like rock bottom. And then the whole pregnancy, I drank the entire pregnancy, and I was alone the entire pregnancy. His father was incarcerated. Um, I was homeless living in my car. I didn't go to any prenatal appointments. I just was hopeless. I honestly thought that I might give him up to the family who has my two older kids until I seen his face. And when he was removed, I just, all I ever wanted to be in life was a mother. That was There's more to me now, but for a long time I thought that was my only purpose, that I was just meant to be a mom and there was nothing more than that. And I didn't have that. And I felt empty and I felt like life wasn't worth living without my children. How could I bring three children into this world and you wouldn't know if you see me? for years that I even had kids, and that's heartbreaking. And so after the hospital, I I contacted some places on my own for inpatient. I didn't want to go to inpatient here in Billings because to me it was like, oh, my backyard, I could walk out the door. So I wanted to go to Butte so that I wouldn't be right here in Billings where if I felt like I wanted to leave or walk out, I wasn't just going to walk out of Butte and walk home. I mean, I'm a survivor. I'm sure I'd find my way, but that's not what I wanted to do. So I went to Butte. I got on a Greyhound. I did the 30 days. I came back, and when I came back, CPS has ICWA, Indian Child Welfare Act, one caseworker specifically that works with Native American children. And so my caseworker was switched to her if I decided that I wanted to be inducted into this court. So when they came to me with the court requirements, it was a lot. It was scary. It made me mad. It made me angry. Like, I've went through this before without being in a court. I did it with just CPS, and that was a lot. But it's what I needed, and I got inducted December of 22. I was sober for 2 months ish, and it's the best decision I ever made. There's a lot of drug courts here, but it's the only one based around family and family recovery court, and I couldn't have gotten a better support system. My CPS worker is amazing. My court coordinator is amazing. The judge actually kind of full circle. When I entered the court, she thought I was going to hate her. She was like, "Ooh, I'm going to have trouble with you." Like, because she was the one who took guardianship from my older two kids. And I was like, "I don't hate you. Like, I get it. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to take accountability and to do what I have to do to be a better mother in every single way. And this is the only time that I went into it putting myself first. It wasn't for external reasons. It wasn't so I could get my kids back. It wasn't so I could get out of jail early. It wasn't for any of these things. It's because I wanted to love myself again. I wanted to make goals for myself. I wanted to get a driver's license and go to school and have a home and have a vehicle that I didn't have to look behind me for the cops. I wanted to be a mom and so much more, but I wanted to better myself in every single way. And that opportunity, I'm just so grateful for it. I'm so blessed. I don't know where I would be without this program.
That's so cool. And you said you've had to do a lot. Can you give me some examples of the kinds of things when you say a lot? What does that mean?
So you call in for UAs every morning. So you start out with um, a urinalysis test every day, up to 7 days a week, give or take four minimum, maybe. Even now, they say as you go on, it gets less, but it never does, which is good. I like the accountability. Like, that's what they're there for. You start out in day treatment, and that's um, Monday, Tuesday, 4 days a week from 9 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. So it's more intense than intense outpatient. So it's the step before that while doing visits because the kids don't start out. So I started out homeless. So I didn't have a home. So I had to work on getting a home. I had to work on all these things. So at first it was just visits and treatment, therapy, mental health with like prescribing medications to figure out what's going on that side of it. And then it goes to outpatient, and then it goes to aftercare, and then it goes to all these ancillary groups, and then there's court every week where you have to go through how your week went, and this is I mean, there's so much more in between there, like, and this is kind of like the end, getting to the end, and there's phases. So every you get so many sober days in the court before you can put an application to phase up. In each phase, they ask more things. In this one, you have to do a restorative justice project, and that's why we're here.
Yeah, that's how we got connected, and I'm extremely grateful that we did. And this is a part of your project that you have to do for that. And I love that the heart that you had is you really wanted the families that we serve, the foster and adoptive families, to hear your side of the story, to hear what it's like for those birth parents and maybe some preconceived notions that they might have, and to just kind of peel those back and to really just see the heart of the person behind what's happening in these court systems. And I heard in there you talked a lot about the different supports that you received, and the different people who are involved that are really supportive. I'm curious, what's been the most challenging part of this process for you?
The most challenging part of this is feeling like I'm putting more effort into one child and not the other two. There's a lot of self hate, I guess, self hate, guilt, shame. Why did it take so long? Why didn't I do it for them? There's a lot of, it's almost like there's days where I feel like I shouldn't be as happy as I am, or life shouldn't be as good as it is. It's just the guilt of not having that relationship with my two other children, and um kind of the barrier with their foster mom and our relationship, which we're working on actively. So I have faith it will get better and that I'll be back in their lives more, as long as I continue to work on myself. It's just, I've seen two different sides of, I mean, I've seen every side. I've seen being the foster child in a dysfunctional home. And then I've seen my children be in a home where I feel judged by the mom and that our relationship is really rocky and we have our ups and downs, which I expect. I don't expect for it to be perfect, but then I have this other family who is family. It's not Anthony's family. It's not we're separated. Like we are family. Like I have such an amazing relationship with them. They love us. They love everything about us. There's no looking at our past, or it's just so different. I'm just so grateful for them. They support us so much, and it's the part I really like in your on your website that it says, like, we're not the enemy. The bio parents are not the enemy and vice versa. But I'm guilty of wanting to be the enemy. I'm guilty of thinking there's no way that these people can ever be a part of my life. They're going to judge me. They think that we're just worthless people who don't love our children. And that's so, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, that's far from the truth. Like, there's nothing I love more than my children. There's nothing that, if I had the tools and the skills and the support and the people to reach out to, that I wouldn't have gotten the help to get better before now. But I can't change the past. All I can do is move forward, and I'm doing everything I can to be the best version of myself, to be the best mother for them, whatever that looks like.
I just want to thank you so much for being so vulnerable and so open and honest and transparent with your story. It's obvious you've come a really long way. I see tons of evidence of recovery in you. And we just want you to know here at Childbridge, we are rooting you on and rooting on every birth family.